Lewis Hamilton's time at Ferrari is quickly turning into one of the most dramatic stories of the entire 2025 Formula One season. After spending years at Mercedes with a stable environment, a strong team around him, and clear communication on and off the track, Hamilton's move to Ferrari was supposed to be a fresh new chapter. Many fans believed this could be the chance for Hamilton to fight for an 8th world title with the most historic team in Formula One. But so far, that dream is turning into something far more complicated. At the Chinese Grand Prix, that tension rose to new levels. A radio message between Lewis Hamilton and his race engineer Riccardo Adami was leaked, and it showed a completely different side of their relationship. What was supposed to be a simple team order turned into a long and awkward exchange, with hesitation, disagreement, and a tone that clearly revealed frustration. The way Hamilton responded made it obvious that something is not right inside Ferrari. For a driver as experienced as Hamilton, who had a smooth, trusting, and almost silent understanding with Peter Bonington at Mercedes, this new communication gap is starting to become a serious issue. During the race in China, the Ferrari team already had a difficult start. At the very beginning of the Grand Prix, Charles Leclerc took too much curb on the inside and accidentally made contact with Hamilton. Leclerc damaged his own front wing in the process, while Hamilton's SF25 car remained unharmed. Even though the contact was small, it created early tension between the two Ferrari drivers. Leclerc was told by the team that his car was still performing well, and they encouraged him to continue pushing. He did exactly that and quickly closed the gap to Hamilton. At this point in the race, Ferrari had a choice to make. Let Leclerc pass Hamilton to avoid them fighting on track, or let them race freely. Hamilton came on the radio and said, "I think I'm going to let Charles go because I'm struggling." That message sounded like a team player. It sounded like someone who knew he was slower and wanted to help the team. Riccardo Adami quickly replied with, "Understood." Everything seemed to be working smoothly. But just a few laps later, Hamilton changed his tone. When Leclerc got close behind Hamilton, the expected switch didn't happen. Hamilton kept him behind and then told the team he needs to be closer. Adami came back on the radio and asked again if they could make the switch. He suggested turn 14 as the best place for it. But Hamilton replied with a sharp and clear answer, "I'll let him through when he's closer." When Adami pushed again, Hamilton said, "I'll tell you when we can swap." That message was heard by everyone and quickly spread across the paddock. It wasn't just a disagreement. It sounded like a breakdown in trust. This is not something we are used to hearing from Lewis Hamilton. At Mercedes, his communication with Bonington was smooth, respectful, and built over years of experience together. They hardly needed to say much because they understood each other. But at Ferrari, the relationship between Hamilton and Adami feels completely out of sync. There are awkward pauses, blunt answers, and a tone that reveals how frustrated Hamilton is becoming. Eventually, Hamilton did let Leclerc through on lap 21, but by that time the delay had already cost Ferrari valuable time. Leclerc's engineer even apologized to him over the radio for how long the swap took. These few extra seconds may seem small, but in Formula One, they can decide the outcome of an entire race. In fact, later in the race, Lando Norris was able to pass Leclerc for position, and that move may not have happened if the team had made the switch between drivers sooner. Meanwhile, Hamilton's race continued to go downhill. He struggled with his car's handling and pace and eventually finished in 6th place, more than 25 seconds behind Oscar Piastri, who went on to win the race. It was another painful result for the 7-time world champion, and when the race ended, his mood made that very clear. After the race, Hamilton was brief with the media. In fact, he gave only 38 words when asked about what went wrong. He said, "I struggled, didn't have any rear end, and then the car wasn't turning at low speeds. So yesterday I didn't have that problem. I was just struggling with pace, so it was like, let me try something." That last sentence, "let me try something," said a lot about Hamilton's state of mind. It shows that he feels like the team isn't giving him the right tools, and he's having to experiment just to keep up. This is not the mindset of someone who feels supported or confident in the direction the team is going. And this wasn't the first time we've heard signs of tension between Hamilton and Ferrari this season. Just one race before in Australia, Hamilton told Adami to leave me to it during a chaotic part of the race. He was clearly frustrated by the amount of radio input he was getting from the team. And now in China, he hesitated to follow team orders and made it clear that he wanted to make his own decisions on track. These are not isolated moments. They're part of a growing pattern. This pattern shows a deeper issue. Hamilton is clearly losing trust in Ferrari's decision-making during races, and when the car is already struggling with pace, clearly behind Red Bull and McLaren, this lack of clear communication is only making things worse. Ferrari needs unity, sharp decisions, and teamwork to compete with the top teams. But right now they are showing cracks in every direction. It's not just about Hamilton. Ferrari as a whole is having a difficult time. In Australia, they suffered a double disqualification due to technical rule violations. And now, in China, their race was again filled with problems, this time from poor communication, strategy delays, and on-track tension between their two drivers. Charles Leclerc may be ahead in the standings, but even he looked frustrated after the race. The whole team looks like it's under pressure and not handling it well. This is far from what Hamilton expected when he joined Ferrari. He came here for a new challenge and to write history with the most legendary team in F1. He wanted to prove that he could win outside of Mercedes, but so far he's found more frustration than success. Ferrari doesn't just have a car that's a bit off the pace. They also have internal problems, communication issues, leadership confusion, and a culture that still hasn't adapted to how Hamilton operates. One of the biggest questions now is whether Ferrari can adapt. Can they change how they communicate with drivers? Can they rebuild the kind of trust that Hamilton needs to perform at his best? This is not just about pit stops or tyre strategy. It's about the bond between a driver and his engineer. At Mercedes, Hamilton had a partnership that worked like clockwork. At Ferrari, it feels like they're still learning how to speak the same language. The pressure on Riccardo Adami is also huge. Working with Hamilton is a major opportunity, but it's also a massive responsibility. Every message he gives must be clear, confident, and perfectly timed. In Formula One, communication is not just a technical task, it's about building trust. And when the team is under pressure, and the car isn't performing, that trust becomes even more important. Adami and Hamilton need to find their rhythm quickly, because Formula One does not wait. Every race matters, and Ferrari can't afford to fall further behind. Ferrari as a team must also take a hard look at how they're operating. The Chinese Grand Prix didn't have any major regulatory controversy like Australia, but it did expose serious weaknesses in how the team manages race day. From the delayed driver swap to the overall lack of clear decisions, Ferrari showed they're still struggling to execute under pressure. And with a driver like Hamilton, who brings so much experience and expectation, the spotlight is even brighter. Many fans and experts are now asking whether Ferrari is truly ready for this level of pressure. They finally have one of the greatest drivers in history, but are they giving him what he needs to succeed? If they can't fix these problems fast, the tension will only grow both inside the team and in the media. And as we've seen before, once the media storm starts around Ferrari, it's very hard to stop. The next few races will be absolutely critical. Ferrari doesn't just need points, they need to rebuild confidence. They need to prove they can give both Leclerc and Hamilton a clear strategy, a united message, and a car that can fight at the front. If they can do that, maybe they can change the direction of this season. But if the mistakes continue and the communication problems grow worse, this could turn into a season filled with regret. Hamilton is not someone who gets angry for no reason. His frustration on the radio and his short answers after the race show that something deeper is going wrong.